Howdy, Archfab. This is Aide de Camp, and today we're here to talk about the Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. Again, these series of book studies is around our mission for the year, which is to improve our customer experience. And so we got some good insight and feedback from this book, and excited to share that. We also have the whole team back, so it's the second one of the year with everybody present. So without further ado, the Thank You Economy. So the book kind of breaks down into several key areas. We've kind of have those outlined here in the contents, but the key, like kind of the general theme of this book is taking social media. It was written about 12 years ago, so it's like really kind of framing up how social media can play a role in business and creating relationships. So we've got some takeaways from that kind of separate from the social media aspect of it. But we're going to look at prioritizing how we prioritize customer relationships, and the role that authenticity plays in that, how we can provide value to our customers, ultimately leading towards like building a better community of customers, which can only be done through using their feedback to improve our processes and ultimately what we're delivering to them. And then, wrap it up with kind of the key to long-term success in the digital age. So excited to share our takeaways.
Yeah, and just jumping in here, I guess, for me, Jeff mentioned this is kind of largely got a lot of tactical social media ideas to it, but it's at its core. I think Gary was kind of like an early voice to the idea that business leaders, like in this new economy that we're in, need to think like small town shop owners. And so there's a lot to that, and it's true in all segments of society, and many of us have probably experienced that seen that on different levels at this point. And some of that might not be as completely contextually applicable to like a subcontractor in the construction industry. However, one of the things that transcends all segments is the idea that customers move around. Everybody has a network of or a community or a network that they're plugged into somehow socially, so those people are going to either direct business to us or away from us, and they're going to either be enrolled in a voice for Archfab or somebody that's not aware of. And so figuring out a way to tap into that is one of the keys here.
Yeah, Ryan, I also noticed this book really pointed out that social media has changed word of mouth, and that it can only take seconds or minutes for someone to share their opinion with thousands of people. So the way we take care of our customers can spread like wildfire with just one post, and that does affect our personal and professional reputation. So it seems like much more is at stake these days because of how quickly positive and negative opinions can travel.
Yeah, it's almost like created a paradox where like we like to think about like social media, but maybe like the internet and technology in general, like how it's made our world feel so much bigger. But to Ryan's point, like it also like in a way kind of shifts like the narrative back to like how you can build a following and have more of that like close kind of contact or connection to your customers. So where it feels like the world's a lot bigger, it also can feel a lot smaller just based on how wide word can spread. So
yeah, big thing for me when the book started, he kind of tried to describe what the thank you economy is, and then the big thing that stuck out to me was he continued emphasis on being genuine. And what that reminded me of when I was putting this slide together was my time in pre-con when to save time, to be more efficient, I would be copying like the same kind of template email. I know we have email templates that we send to PMs when we turn a job over. So it's like, what can we do to be maybe not get rid of template emails, because I think they're beneficial on some level, but just making that a more genuine and authentic experience for our customer. And I'm just trying to keep that in mind as we work the rest of the year to improve the overall customer experience.
Yeah, and so what that might look like is taking something like a template email, using that as kind of a backbone or a framework for your general messaging, but personalizing it to that individual or to that specific project, and those kind of things, right?
Right. Yeah.
Cool. So we'll move on to the next part of this, which is speaking more to like how you prioritize customer relationships, and we will share a quick video clip with you as well after our takeaways.
All right, so yeah, I think we all know how important customers are and keeping them happy or more than happy. So the author here tells us how businesses have gotten so used to cutting out anything that doesn't directly affect the bottom line, but customers notice when a business is choosing to run this way. And I think now customers' standards are higher than ever. So this tactic just doesn't work anymore, trying to cut out everything that we possibly can. Businesses that choose to truly take care of their customers and work to spread that reputation are always going to come out on top compared to businesses that aren't able to exceed customer expectations in some way.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of that, what I was thinking about from the book, the author kind of speaks about how he kind of rose his company with speaking about wines. So he would jump around on blogs and websites, not promoting his wine, but more so like answering people's questions about questions they had about different types of wines. And he kind of built his reputation of being funny and outgoing and very knowledgeable about wine. Well, people would track to his website and essentially notice that he sold wine. So that's how he kind of built up his reputation. What I kind of thought about when I was reading that part was our lunch and learns and how we kind of reach out to the customer and be genuine and act that way so we can build our customers up in that way.
Yeah, I think our lunch and learn program is a great example of this because it's, specifically in order for it to qualify as like continuing education credits, it can't be like a big promotional thing for the company. So we're really there to like educate and inform, and it doesn't always result in us like winning business. Certainly like that's our motivation for being involved in it, but it provides a greater value to the architectural community. So I think it's a great example. The other thing that this kind of related to for me was, I think it was an Uncommon Service where it talked about like, it's not good enough just for your customers to be satisfied. Like it needs to be more than that. And so, going back to all of the other books that we've read, whether it's romancing your customer or creating raving fans, like how do we do that? And it really is, it might be contradictory to like what we presented in the last presentation around like the attributes that we felt like were most important to our customers, relationships being like of those six, it was the last one. I think it's possible that we might have missed the point of that book, and like maybe like there should be like a general understanding that relationships as it pertains to like the long-term success of our business are a non-negotiable aspect. And so how do we create better relationships? It's, I think there's a slide later that talks about going the extra mile, but it's creating that shock and awe experience. And that's certainly like what we're aiming towards with Aide Camp this year. So.
Yeah, I think an important aspect of building a relationship is, and this is something Gary Vee mentions in the book specifically, is treating every customer like a big spender. So it kind of sets up this clip from Jerry Maguire where his client Rod Tidwell is kind of like an average receiver in the NFL, but Jerry is in a moment of crisis where he's losing all his clients, and he needs to treat his average client like his best client. So this kind of shows like how we should be treating every customer, how we should be, making them happy, which equals money, which you can see. That's what it says on the slide right there. That means it's true.
Are we ready to roll this beautiful bean footage?
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
What can I do for you, Rod? You just tell me, what can I do for you?
It's a very personal, very important thing. Are you ready, Jerry?
I'm ready.
Just want to make sure you're ready, brother. Here it is. Show me the money.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it what you would mean it, brother. Hey, I got Bob Sugar on the other line. I better hear you say it.
No. Show you the money.
Not show you. Show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah. Louder.
Show me the money.
That's it. But you got to go.
Show me the money.
I need to feel you, Jerry.
Show me the money.
Jerry, you better yell. Show me the money. Show me the money. Do you love this black man? I love black people. I love black people. What you gonna do, Jerry? Show me the money.
What can I do for you, Rod? You just tell me, what can I do for you?
Oh,
It's very personal.
What can I
We're having
do
a little
for
bit of
you,
a
Rod? You
technical
just tell me,
error
what
here.
can I do? What can I do for you, Rod? You just tell me.
yeah.
Bear
You get
with
the
us.
point.
Yeah, so I think that somebody's mic is picking up the speaker. Can somebody turn their speaker off? All right. So
Nick, it's you.
What's that?
it's going
Is
to
it me?
take a minute. Somebody still has their speakers on. Perfect. All right. Yeah, so he talks about just related to that clip. I think everybody gets a point, but he mentions like even bribery is acceptable. I think about like historically like things that we've done to like really show our customers like like to romance them. The best example I could think of was like how after Tanger Outlets, after we completed that project, like we rolled a smoker into the parking lot at Mycon and smoked barbecue for them and had a big company event with Mycon, and that's something that I think we can be better about, being more intentional about providing that type of experience and showing how much we really appreciate the business that they do with us. And it shouldn't have only happened once, So I think that there's a track record of us doing those things. Even part of that was like creating some like custom frame for Mycon with like completion photos from that job that is, that they immediately hung on the wall in their office. And so there's things like that. Like I think we can go out of our way to like create like, a better feeling, after we've been awarded work or after we've completed a project with somebody. So.
Yeah, I think that goes nicely into this slide because, or were you talking about the other slide? You're talking about this slide.
This was a transition between slides.
Yeah, it was perfect. Good job. But yeah, I think as leaders in the company, I think it's upon us to take that initiative to do things like that. So, and then that empowers employees to do the same thing and to instilling that culture basically allows your employees to treat every customer like a top customer in their day-to-day interactions, because we don't always have those interactions with customers day to day. That's like our employees would do that the majority of the time. So it's important to instill that culture from the top down.
Yeah, I think this is just kind of expanding on the sort of mom and pop small town analogy that was kind of framed at the beginning of this book. Gary Vee makes the case that, as business leaders, like we need to be willing we may have to like do some cultural overhaul, like in our organization. And and kind of adopt the mindset that this isn't something that we outsource. This isn't something that one department does or a sales department does or marketing or a person does. It's like, this is a mode of operation that everybody enters into and is comfortable engaging in. So it's something that we like need to think about, how we're, fostering that atmosphere here, how as we're onboarding new people in an ever growing environment, like how we're hiring to that and being authentic about it. And some of this ties straight into core values, being willing to help, not just internally, but like with customers, going the extra mile, doing these things. And I'm just thinking about like Jeff's example of like working with Mycon. Like, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but like I think a couple of those guys are now over at another customer, and like we do business with that customer largely because of seeds that were sown back then, right?
For sure.
So that's the example of the small town thing, like in action.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, in that case, they actually went to go start their own like general contractor, and they own it. So
Yeah.
as a result of that experience, like they look more favorable upon us because of what we've done, because of the relationship, the groundwork that we've laid in the past. So,
Yeah.
but I think it also can be a challenge because we work with so many customers. So it may be part of like what we need to, like strategically, what we need to think about long term is like how, like if we're selling projects or product to people that we wouldn't want to do that for, maybe we shouldn't be selling to those people. So it's like something to consider strategically, like because we can't be all things to all people, but who can we be the best version of ourselves to, and like limiting, our focus to that group of people. So something to think about. So.
Yep.
Yeah, and to kind of touch on the bullet point, the customers can see through fake or insincere attempts to connect with them. This kind of goes back to what Nick was saying about the generic responses to our clients, and whether that be like our introduction emails or a response to an issue. We just need to kind of get out of that kind of robotic response and lean into being more genuine and like as a person and understanding their point of view. I know with us, it's kind of easy to get in our day-to-day of just get them an answer as quick as we can so we can move on to the next person. But when connecting with customers and building these relationships like the barbecue and things like that, we just need to start from the ground up where we're starting those barbecues and then continue to build on those relationships. And that's through every department internally.
Yeah, I only wanted to touch on this real quick and point out that like this go the extra mile or the culture of our company, just being genuine and authentic, that's something we've spoke on in every single book that we've read this so far this year. It's a big key to all of this.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're right, Ken. Every book that we've read is like really like culture is at the kind of the center of the recipe related to like whether it's romancing your customer, or creating raving fans, or providing uncommon service. It's about culture kind of sits in the middle of all of that. So in this next slide, we have another video clip for you. Nick, you want to describe this?
Yes, it's the Christmas classic, Elf,
Buddy the
starring
Elf.
Will Ferrell. Yeah, I thought this clip was relevant, especially to the last slide, because it just shows Will Ferrell, Buddy, decorating the mall in such a way that everybody is shocked and awed. Even the manager goes as far to say he thinks it's like a psyop campaign against to make him look bad. So yeah, it just shows what happens and what you can do when you go the extra mile, or really care for your customer and the experience they're having. So
Thank you for that extensive and elaborative
that was
segue into this.
Yeah, that was my thesis statement
Yeah.
of Elf. It's ongoing. And it looks really good afterwards. They didn't include that in the. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're capped out at a minute for video clips, so uh, it didn't make the clip. But we do have SpongeBob, a relationship to SpongeBob in this next slide. So
Yeah. So
Soak that in.
everybody's
Building
speechless
customer
about
Soak in the
that.
SpongeBob meme.
I'll let Nick explain the SpongeBob meme. But big ideas here that have kind of transcended multiple books. But his, one of the things that stuck out to me, kind of in this section, it's just Gary points out that he kind of basically highlights the spirit of it being that, when any human is faced with two equal choices, like the people's general inclination is going to be to buy from, like, if for no other reason, buy from like the one that they associate with the person that they know or they're familiar with or have been referred to. And this is not, anything new. It's pretty obvious and intuitive when you think about it. Many of us largely buy from the same brands. We drive the same cars. We, are loyal to, certain brands over time for a handful of reasons, or maybe we go to some kind of service or business because we read the reviews on Yelp or something. But like, there's always a personal element to it, and that, like, it's a natural human thing that's just universal. And so, like, exploiting that, leveraging that to build out customer loyalty and that relational development that we kind of keep alluding to. Like, we want to have customers that want to work with us because they know us as people, know us individually. And like, when that rapport has been established and that, like, relationship is set, then there's more, I guess, leniency or just ability to mitigate challenges. They're willing to forgive things more, just like we all do with brands that we love. So those are some of the things that kind of stuck out to me for this part.
Yeah, one another way Gary Vee brings up in his book about how we can build that loyalty with our customer is to offer like other things, to have other additional offerings other than just what we're selling. So trying to connect this SpongeBob meme to canopies. Just imagine we're selling canopies instead of bubbles, and people, they can buy canopies from Aide, right? But maybe they want to buy from us because we provide a long list of resources that help them, with their products. So SpongeBob gives lessons on how to blow bubbles, and he gets a bigger crowd. He gets a bigger customer base. We are shipping to site, Atlas canopies, but we have instructional videos on how to install. It's like that kind of those kind of resources help build customer loyalty. And just trying to think of in the future, what else can we provide our customers to build that loyalty to our brand, to our company. So.
And I think another way that Gary Vee also pointed out about loyalty is just like talking with your customers, exchanging ideas, and with doing that, you're building relationships with that person. People don't talk about things that they don't care about, so make them care and engage with them, and we'll see, potentially a better outcome with that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, early on in my sales career, the saying that I used to hear from an old grizzled veteran sales rep was, people buy from people they like and justify the cost. And based on the early results in my sales career, I felt like I must not be a very likable person because nobody was justifying the cost. But yeah, I think, it all comes back to relationship and, being able to, ultimately provide value, similar to what Shelby was saying, like being able to solve problems for customers, even if it's not related to our scope of work, like where we can be a resource, where we can be, you know, a consultative, a solutions provider like that, that's going to serve us well long term. So.
Yeah.
So moving on, like we've talked about how we prioritize customer relationships, how we like doing that through authenticity, providing value. But really, like, you know, once you've done that work, it's like kind of connecting all of that, you know, those relationships and building out a community that your customers really feel a part of, like that they're going to get a unique experience because they get to work with ArcFab. So.
Yeah, and I think that community building piece is kind of like the main takeaway for me here. I mean, there's a lot of, like we've said, social media related tactics in this book, being a little bit of an older book, but like underneath all of that is like I think he says a part in the book where like if the whole idea for using a tool like social media is just like tracking numbers and metrics and views, like it's a big adventure and missing the point. The goal of something like that, and we could replace social media with like some other focused, intentional strategy, but it's to create conversations like around that draw your tribe in, draw your people in, with like a magnetic effect. And so, you know, we should be thinking to ourselves as a part of customer experience, like how are we enhancing the conversations within the architectural communities, within our GC customers. This morning on LinkedIn, there was a post by somebody in our industry, a different trade, utility contractor. He had kind of this rant about pursuing a job for years and then losing it, and then like that triggering something within him to essentially fire the customer in his mind, because he wants to be working with partners, and like that was informative, and he's putting that out there. And right, wrong, or indifferent, like where you disagree with the message, like it had tons of engagement. The whole community was in on that post, and so like those are the types of things that come to mind, you know, along these lines. Just you know, how are you drawing community to you to be a credible voice and to you know, kind of exploit it, so to speak.
Yeah, great example, Ryan. So the you know, a big part of creating value and building that community is like listening to what your customers have to say, right? So finding out what you're doing wrong, what you're doing right, and like incorporating that feedback into your, you know, your improvements as a business. So
yeah, and again, one of my favorite stories in the book, he kind of spent some time talking about this burger joint, where customers were allowed to basically help, like, not just curate, but like develop portions of the menu with real-time voting and sort of ranking. And one of the options, I think, was literally a bacon and peanut butter cheeseburger, which I guess became really popular. It was like one person suggested it, and then it was tried and upvoted. And he uses that example to kind of make the case for how much, like the degree to which customer feedback can drive your business. And obviously that can't completely translate to our domain in every single way, but like how can we better source our customers' feedback to help not just find out what's important to them, but use that to drive their own experience. We've talked in, you know, sort of create your own adventure idea, but, you know, not just relates to like what product do you want, but how do they want to be communicated to? Like how important is customization or price to them, and you know, leveraging technology or some other mode that, you know, our own priorities matrix that we talked about at Uncommon Service, the things that are important, like maybe that is different based off of the feedback that the customer gives, and they kind of select that for themselves. It's a self-selective experience. Maybe that's not feasible, maybe it is, but these are the kinds of things that we're thinking about. Is there a way of letting the customers categorize themselves to the degree that it informs, you know, their own tailored experience? So it's just interesting to think through.
So I focused a little more on the negative feedback here, and I think it's some of the most important communication you can have with a customer, because it tells you exactly what you need to fix, and it gives you the chance to win back that customer, possibly for life. And so this creates a win-win situation for both the customer and the company. And of course, you have to be careful with how you choose to respond to negative feedback. But just regarding negative feedback is something that we should try to not be afraid of, and don't let it stop us from seeking out truthful feedback, even if that's on social media where everyone can see your responses.
Yeah, and I would say like at some point that's kind of like the next iteration of like our focus around customer experience, because a lot of our conversations have been, kind of in our own echo chamber within Aide de Camp. So it's like using our resources as a group to go out and get more feedback about what needs to be, what does it need to look like. And to Ryan's point, like if there's an opportunity to create different operating segments or whatever that allows us to tailor our experience to the specific needs of an individual client, like that could be ideal. It also may not be necessary if the feedback we get is so consistent, like we can develop one experience. So the opportunities are like pretty limitless in terms of like what direction we go in. I think it's important to highlight just, and I think I've mentioned this in previous book studies, is we're learning along the way. We're sharing our insight, our feedback as we go through these books. Ultimately, our long-term planning around customer experience is going to kind of culminate with our Disney Institute training, and where we'll come back with our actionable plans and kind of broadcast those to the company. So we're sharing our kind of candid feedback about these books, how we think it applies to ArcFab, but certainly no promises being made or commitments being made in terms of where we're gonna end up. So the last slide that we have here is, what does it all mean? What does it all mean, Nick?
I think the biggest takeaway I took from the book was his continued emphasis on being genuine and authentic, and how much value that can bring to your customer relationship. Because I think because of social media, and even more so than when the book was written, because Twitter apparently was only 4 years old when this book was written. So now it's a teenager. Now it has feelings and hormones. Yeah, like the reach is just multiplied by many factors. And so customers, like BS meter has improved so much. So I think being the most important takeaway I had was being real, just like the real world. Stop being fake, start being real. So, and another good thing that he brought up, another good point that he brought up, or think that something that stuck with me was word of mouse instead of word of mouth. It's funny, play on words. But in the past, you could tell one friend about a bad experience, and then they would tell a friend, and that's obviously the concept behind word of mouth. But today, in the Twitter world, you tell or you send out one tweet, you can tell a million people. So it's just like how in an age dominated by that amount of reach, and how do we adapt, and how can we take advantage of it? So that's what I'm thinking about from the book.
That's good. I think for me, kind of a major takeaway is the idea of like, how do we, the tools are going to change over time. The platforms are going to change over the time, but a lot of the companies that were highlighted in this book, and I think the general spirit of the book is like, how do we use the changing world, the changing economy, to differentiate ourselves so significantly that we change the industry that we're in. Like one of the parting things that Gary talks about is like, there will be companies that basically he uses language about like they will become fossils because they don't scale with the right mindset. They're like kind of losing what's important. and not leaning into some of these things. And I think like we're actually like I think that's true broadly, and we're in an industry that is somewhat archaic, like inherently. You know, in the construction side of things, there's I feel like there's GCs that still require 6 sets of hard copies for submittals. Just recently, I know like some subcontractors are still faxing in numbers on bid day. Like people just don't change. Like it's amazing how people aren't aware, like adapting and changing. So along those lines, like I think there's just companies, large parts of the industry that still don't understand like this economy that we're in, that Gary was describing prophetically 10 or 15 years ago. And so just looking forward, how can we be one of those rare contractors that are not just using social media differently, but like introducing like an entire new experience in a way that's different than anybody out there. And so I think it's a motivation on my end.
I think to piggyback off that, Ryan, it's like this program Jeff's got us doing. It's kind of like trailheading everything, getting in front of the other companies that are falling short, staying in the front end of technology, building out processes that have never been built out before, making different dyes to completely create new canopies we've never done before, like staying on the front end of all of that and staying ahead. But my biggest takeaway from all of this still goes back to just the relationship and also involving our core values and going the extra mile, and really all the other core values too. But the main one in this book, touching on just go the extra mile, and being genuine and authentic while doing it.
It sounds like we're all kind of thinking along the same lines. But the things I'm thinking about after this book is how we have to take care of our customers to a larger extent, like Gary is suggesting here. And that isn't going to change anytime soon. But at the same time, we have to be on the lookout for upcoming disruptive changes. All the business examples in this book made sense and had a lot of truth to them, like how so many people doubted Amazon and social media in general when those things were still new. So this book was a reminder to me to keep an open mind for what's coming next and try and get ahead of some of those things, but to definitely not be the last one to get on board.
Yeah, I think that kind of, all of that just kind of wraps up to my greatest takeaway too, is just always looking ahead at what's coming for us. So whether that be a new social media platform or marketing in a different way, what I appreciate most about this company is the fact that they are open to new technologies. They're open to ideas, getting ideas internally and externally, and actually implementing those ideas. My last company, I mean, we were still printing out all the Excel spreadsheets and filing everything. And so it's just staying with the modern times and just giving the customer what they need and making it easier for them.
Yeah, I think that everybody made good points to kind of summarize and wrap up this book study. And what I hear, the one word that I hear, from all of you guys about this is like innovation, and being like looking for ways to innovate within our business, within our industry. And social media certainly isn't that for us right now. It would have been maybe 12 years ago or 10 years ago. But like, what is the next thing, and how can we like kind of blaze a trail towards like, in the context of what this group is focused on this year, is like creating, not just a satisfactory customer experience, but, to blaze a trail towards something that's never been seen, never been done before. And I think there's an opportunity to leverage technology, but I think more importantly, I think there's an opportunity to leverage like the amazing people that we employ here to create an outstanding culture and environment where people are really passionate and care about the work that they're doing, and that's reflective in their work. It's apparent to our customers, and I think that becomes like infectious. It becomes viral. Wanting to work with people who really enjoy what they do, especially in this day and age. So, yeah, I think that pretty much wraps it up. Unless anybody wants the final word. Going once, twice, 3 times. All right. So that wraps up our presentation on the Thank You Economy by Gary Vaynerchuk. And also, we've mentioned this in previous presentations. We only do one take on this thing. So we apologize for the goof up on slide transitions and somebody having their speaker on and lots of background noise at times. So appreciate your patience and understanding around those things. And stay tuned for our next presentation, which will be on the Be Our Guest book, which is written by people at the Disney Institute. So should be a great transition into our time in training at Disney. So with that, we'll leave you with this says intro, but it's actually an outro in this presentation.
I whistle better than Mickey.
Mickey can whistle. You cannot, dude. You need to stop that. Aide de camp out. Thanks.
See you.